Now, the outcomes of the May 29th, 2024 local government elections leading to the Government of National Unity brought hope for some disgruntled citizens. Now, the unprecedented GNU also received some skepticism on the functioning of the new government. Think Tank Sivio Institute compiled a South African Citizens Watch, the assessment of actions implemented by the GNU since July 2024. It's a report that they've been able to put out. It tracks promises made by government as well as the actions that were implemented to date. We're speaking now to research associate at Sivio Institute, then Yolokazi Mfuto, who joins us in studio. Yolokazi, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's talk about why this was so necessary.
Good morning, Arabile. Good morning to your viewers at home as well. This report is quite important for us at Sivio Institute. Maybe just to take you back, Sivio Institute is an organization in South Africa, not for profit, but it aims to actually help citizens to track government actions. But our work expands more than that. We ensure that we actually take citizens along for socio-economic transformation in the country. So the organization exists in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, Malawi, and so on and so forth, across the continent and in the United States. So our work revolves around three centers. One, the civic engagement, which the report came from. Secondly, we have the philanthropy and communities center. And lastly, the livelihoods and development center.
Did you say the United States as well?
Yes, the organization exists in the US as well. So because our work actually ensures that democracy is safeguarded, citizens that are at the center of the actions that are happening in their countries. Because you know, politicians, they actually put up promises when they want to be voted for, but now what takes them to account when they don't deliver. So our work is mainly for that, to actually bring evidence of what you have promised and track the actions that have happened. Maybe I'll take you through on how we track in real time to ensure that
let's actually, because that's ultimately the whole aim of the report itself, right? And it measures then ultimately all the promises that have been put forward by the GNU, by the presidency, by the government, you say, effectively, and then the kind of actions that they've put in place to implement and to see their promises come to fruition. Is that how it works?
Yes. So currently we have about 39 promises. The promises were actually extracted from the president's speech on the opening of Parliament in July last year. So we are still waiting for the mid-term development plan, which has been approved by Cabinet, but is not yet publicized yet. So we're waiting for that, and then we can have more promises. Currently, we have 39 promises that the Government of National Unity has made in the speech that the President delivered in July last year. And in those, we have categorized them in 5 sectors. We have the economy, we have governance, corruption, climate change, and social services. Out of the 39, we have about 17 that have been commenced, right? So being commenced... Not completed. So there's the steps, right? The steps are like, they commenced in progress, and then we say that also, if it's implemented fully, then we can take it, you've done this, right? But also there are those that have been modified. So the president probably, or the government, would say, we want to do A, B, C, and D, but maybe over time they tend to maybe look things differently and modify it. We say it's modified, but it's still in the realm of being implemented. And some have been broken, right? When they have promised one thing and do the other. So those things are quite important for citizens to be in the know-how of what happens in the country. So in that report, I tried by all means with the team to actually break it down for citizens, that we have these 39 promises, 17 have commenced. There's about 500 million that have been put aside for small businesses in rural and townships that government aims to actually assist. So we want to see the fruition of it. So after this term of the GNU, we're going to see if that has happened.
What inspired doing it this time around? And why hasn't it done before for previous administrations especially? And I know, I mean, this is I get it. It's a different dispensation. The GNU is slightly different. But I'm pretty sure this could have been done for previous governments as well, and it certainly would have been helpful.
This has not necessarily been done in South Africa, but it's not new. The government of Zimbabwe has also had a similar instance, and also in Malawi as well, the tracking of the government now leading to these elections. There is a report on what government has done. So in South Africa, it's new, and I'm glad to be part of the piloting to actually ensure that we hold our government to account. And also, it's quite important, Arabile, that when we conscientize citizens, we don't only speak to them about things, we give them evidence that this has been done, right, or this has been started, but they didn't finish it. And also to be honest to ourselves and be transparent. When we engage government, we engage from a point of we have the research, cutting-edge research, that it's believable, and people now, you are more credible because you come up with the research that you've done from the ground, that we have sources. Because we take this from government, actually. We take it from different sources, even in communities. This has been done. Oh, okay, right, we have evidence, we put it up, and also we follow through. So it's quite important for citizens to be well acquainted with what's happening in their country. Yeah.
So, of these sectors that you've split up it up into 5, as you said then. The one that has no promises but also no actions is climate change.
Yes.
So, we're basically saying as a country, we are going through the just transition ultimately, but we're seeking funding from somewhere else in order for us to fulfill any of that. So, of course, that will probably remain zero unless it's modified at a later stage. But here's an interesting one, the economy. 19 promises with 5 actions currently in play. I don't know if you're able to expand a little bit on that and how much the budget that has been put forward recently has anything to do with that.
Well, the budget, now remember we're still in impasse. We don't know if what's going to happen with the budget.
So I guess it doesn't count as promises then because we don't actually have the final set.
Exactly. And also the report has been produced before the budget was tabled in Parliament. But we have the 19 promises and 5 have been implemented. And also the 5 that has been commenced, not even implemented.
Yes, so started,
right?
Not finished.
Not finished. But we also have some great, for instance, in the Northwest province, the provincial government has partnered with a gold plant from China to create about 4,000 jobs in Northwest. We want to see the fruition of it. We want citizens being able to acquire jobs that are going to increase their participation in the economy. So you want such programs. Not only because sometimes the promises are unclear, right? They're not clear, they're just concepts. So it's important that we break it down on how does it trickle down to the normal citizen on the ground, how they're acquiring job, how does it contribute to our GDP, you know? So those promises there, the 5, are the clearest that you could get from government. And probably this is only a year report. The year is still going on. We hope that there will be more actions added, but also there will be more promises added and also actions that are going to be implemented.
The most number of actions, though, come from social services. So the biggest worry, one might say, is that we become too much of a social state, considering how small the tax base is as well. So meaning you need to create more taxpayers in order to fulfill some of these social services. But to have at least begun 8 actions from the 12 promises, that's a good start.
It is a very good start. And also it's quite important for citizens because for citizens, what is important to them is how services are delivered for them. They want access to water. They want to ensure that there's transport. They want to ensure that when they go to clinics, there's medication. They want education for their children to be safeguarded. So these are quite important, quite progressive, right? And also there we have the Bella Bill and now the Act, right, which has been progressive. And also it did cause a stay-off in the government of national unity. But it's quite important for people to have their children's education safeguarded, but also important that we safeguard the type of education we have. And also the health, social services also includes health. There's a new app right now for people to actually access health, quite easy for queuing and also they reintroduced the Be Wise app, which was very progressive in ensuring that young people have friendly services when they enter public health institutions, because sometimes young people do not go to this because they're afraid that the nurses are going to judge them and so on and so forth. Those are important because citizens, they want tangible things that when you access public services, you get the best treatment.
39 promises, 17 actions that have begun. By this, are we able to assess whether the GNU is actually working?
Well, the conclusion of the report, actually, there is an assumption that, I think also not even assumption, there's backing that the GNU has started on a great foot, particularly now. There's about 3 acts that have been put into law. The Gun Blazing Expropriation Act, which is very important for citizens of South Africa. It's very important for the land reform of the country and to ensure that government take ownership of the buildings and the land in the country. Secondly, the Taxation Act, that is actually to ensure that businesses, they remove the burden of businesses to actually employ people, and also the entire bureaucracy of how small businesses struggle to access funding and so on and so forth, and to get support. So it's quite important. And then, of course, the Bella, which was also important. So the GNU has gained trust of the investors and also trust of citizens, because now it's a melting pot of different ideas. And it's quite important that even the budget impulse, it was important that it happens for citizens know that the people who are representing us from the ground, they are not there to just agree with each other on everything that is happening. It's important that there's contestation of ideas, different ideas, then they can converge and actually have a good plan to put the country forward.
At the same time, somebody else could say maybe they're just going to be slower at implementing. And implementation has always been the big problem itself, because we're going to spend so much time trying to go back and forth on the idea itself that the implementation actually slows down a bit too much, and then things don't actually get done. Is there a risk of that, do you feel?
Of course, with any administration, there's pros and cons. But I think in this case, the pros are quite higher. Because also you look at this, these organizations are also campaigning for the next election. 2026, we're going to local and provincial elections, and soon to be, again, the national election. So they also campaigning. Also the progress made within the Home Affairs, the progress made in the Trade and Industry Ministry. Because these ministers, they come from political organizations, they have mandate to fulfill, they have citizens to put a front that we're actually working. So it's quite important that I think the pros in terms of these parties, they also want to campaign. They want to look good to citizens. But also it's quite important that every other party is represented, different ideas, and also citizens, I think they're going to gain more trust, because they're not polarized now to say that they are not for me or this ANC government. Now it's GNU, it's not ANC government. You can't blame one political organizations. So we share the blame, we share the wins as well.
Yeah. Overall, thank you. I mean, this report in itself gives a clear assessment. Can anybody ultimately access it? Will it continuously be updated as well? On what basis or how long?
Yes, the report is accessible to Sivio Institute. So if you can type Sivio Institute South African report, you are going to find it online. Secondly, yes, the report is going to be, we're going to release another one every year to continuously update as citizens. And ultimately, at the end of the term of the GNU, we're going to release a big report to give what has actually happened. And also the report, we're very strategic in actually ensuring that we release it before the election so that citizens know what has happened. And also Sivio has a very interesting other program called Citizens' Perceptions and Expectations, but we have not piloted in South Africa, where we go on the ground to ask citizens about government and what they expect from government. So in the future, we're going to look into where the government meets the expectations of citizens. Because honestly, democracy is government by people. So it's quite important that what citizens expect from this government, they actually deliver. So our work is multidisciplinary in approach, and we are going to expand more of the work in South Africa as well.
Look, we certainly need a few more then of yourselves as well to really give us a clear sense of where government is. It makes understanding what government has brought forward a lot easier to be palatable as well to everybody else. So, Yolokazi, thank you. Really appreciate it. Good work as well by Sivio Institute as well then, as they continue to try and give a clear assessment of where exactly government is, the implementation of the actions that they've promised, and whether they're beginning that implementation and ultimately completing.